There comes a point for many of us when we feel lost, like something essential is missing in our life. And so we begin the journey of the seeker. And we begin to search the world in all four directions for peace, for substance, for love. We look in the quietude of the forest and in nature. We look to the silence of the sky. We look to the stillness of the sunrise, and though we catch glimpses of peace, they come and go, and somehow we can't hold on to them. We even look to find comfort through our possessions. We look to find a sense of feeling important and valuable through positions and titles, and through relationships. And the only reason we search so deeply is because at some point we had the beauty we feel we've lost. And then the day arrives when we go on the right journey, away from the external, into our own being. There comes a time when the seeker goes within and lets go of all the stories of the world, lets go of all their memories and baggage, and the seeker becomes quiet and finds that the door they had been looking for is within them. When we enter into that door, there is a sacred, beautiful, precious stillness of the soul. And in this stillness we know that we are absolutely divine and connected to the Supreme and Beautiful One. And all of a sudden it becomes very clear that those little pieces of peace we got through looking at the forest or the beauty of the sunset, those were only reflections of the beauty of the soul. They were only mirrors that reminded me that that kind of beauty exists within me. And so the seeker's journey comes to an end when we enter the door of our mind and go into the sanctuary of the soul, unleashing our beauty into the world.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone. And a very warm welcome to today's Healing Heart and Soul workshop. My name is May and I will be your host. And I'm very pleased that you could join us this lovely Saturday. This is the last Meditation Cafe session for the year, and a very special one too to cap off the year 2022. And I very much hope that all of us will take something meaningful with us from this workshop. So before we begin the session, please know that we have Mandarin and Tamil translation. Please click on the respective language available below. And if you haven't prepared with yourself colored pens, a notebook and pieces of paper, please have that ready with you for what's in store for you. For most part of the program, you will be muted. However, as we move along, we will invite you to post questions or comments, or otherwise get you to put up your hand with the reactions button down below, and we will unmute you. Also, although I know most of us are shy, it will be great if you can have your videos turned on so we can all feel engaged on this workshop together. So now I'm pleased to introduce our facilitator for today, Sona Bahri from Abu Dhabi. So Sona has been practicing and teaching meditation for the past 30 years. She first learned meditation during her teenage years and was amazed at how quickly and effectively it helped her to focus and absorb information. Since then, she has refined her personal practice and built a strong foundation where she can deliver wisdom in a clear and easy to implement manner. Now, her teaching experience spans across 23 countries in the European, Middle Eastern, Asia Pacific, African, and the American regions. She has delivered workshops and seminars ranging from mindfulness and meditation, stress management, to interpersonal relationships and communication. Some of the companies Sona has worked with or is currently working with include Etihad Airways, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Abu Dhabi, the London Imperial College for Diabetes, and New York University. Since 2008, Sona has been teaching meditation in Abu Dhabi, both in the corporate environment and to individuals personally. She currently holds the position of the Director of Inner Space Center in Abu Dhabi. And prior to this, from 2001 to 2006, that's 5 years, Sona held the role of a coordinator of a beautiful retreat center on a large 132-acre property in the Blue Mountains in Sydney, Australia. Also, to top that off, she's also trained as a professional translator and interpreter, and she speaks 7 languages. So with that, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to you, Sona. Over to you.
Thank you so much, May. I so appreciate that beautiful welcome to everyone and the introduction. So it's wonderful to be with you all. And somehow I love doing workshops at the end of the year. December is a time when, on the one hand, I know that we are all looking forward to a new year, but it's also a time for reflection and to be able to sort of close a chapter, because every year is like a chapter in our book, isn't it? And in the closing of a chapter, I think it offers an opportunity for us to be able to decide, what do I want to take with me into the future, and what do I want to let go of? And perhaps that's where healing begins and ends, really. Because it's a very common word, isn't it? To be healed. We know that many saints and holy men could heal others. And even now, somehow there is that feeling that perhaps somebody can heal me, somebody can help me to heal. But I guess as a meditator, I've realized more and more that my own healing is in my hands. And so the topic today of healing my heart and, healing the soul, it just makes me realize how important it is for me to want to heal. So I'd probably like to look at healing the heart first. And, there was a saying I read, I think somewhere on social media recently, that healing is not about a person or an incident not existing in my life. Healing actually means that that person or that situation, that incident of the past, no longer affects me. It no longer influences me in a negative way. That is really what healing is. So healing the heart, I guess, is a topic that many people begin meditation with. They want their heart to be healed. So the heart is like the seed or the seat, you could say, of all our feelings, isn't it? You know, you're feeling good, feeling bad, feeling upset, feeling happy. And, you know, people say, put your hand on your heart. What are you feeling? So feelings, or perhaps the word that's used a lot these days, emotions. Yeah. And it seems like, you know, a lot of these emotions, a lot of my feelings are possibly linked to people around me. How many of you can say that the remote control to your heart and to your feelings is totally with you? What I mean by that is, how many of us can say that I decide when I want to be happy? I decide when I want to be sad. I decide when I want to be upset. And I decide when I want to be peaceful. Is that true, really? Because what I find is that it feels like sometimes someone or something out there has the remote control to my heart. What do I mean by that? Well, have you ever watched TV and you're so intently watching? These days, football is on, right? For me, it's next door. It's in the country next door in Qatar. So there's a lot of FIFA fever going on in Abu Dhabi. But, you know, when you're watching TV intently, sometimes I go to people's houses, you know, to do some meditation there. And as I enter, the football is on and everyone's glued to the TV screen. And then someone turns the screen off and says, oh, Sola's here. And others go, no, turn the TV off, don't turn the TV off. You know, it's like, it wasn't my decision, perhaps, or, you know, it's like the last 5 minutes of the match and you turn the TV off, you know, and it's a bit like that when you're watching something and somebody comes and they take the remote control and they flick to another channel. Sometimes it can create war at home, can't it? When you have one TV and you have many people who want to watch. So it's a little bit like that with the heart as well, isn't it? You know, I would like my heart to always be on the channel of love, on the channel of mercy, the channel of kindness. But somebody out there can come and say something and it feels like they just flick the channel to bad, mad, bad, upset, depressed. You know, and they flick it so much, like they've really got the button stuck, that sometimes those feelings stay with us for so long. Sometimes when people come to learn meditation, you know, they say things like, oh, you know, 10 years ago, my auntie said this to me, or 20 years ago, my mother did this to me, or I made a mistake 30 years ago and I can't forgive myself. And it's almost like the heart has been burdened. The heart is heavy, so heavy with feelings. The heart is all about relationships. And those relationships create feelings. And many times you can't even remember what happened clearly. But the feelings stay within. And this is what in scientific language they call trauma. You know, trauma is when there's been a wound, and that wound has created some kind of long-lasting, long-term effect. And invariably, when we talk about the heart, the effect that is not desired is pain. So I want you to ask yourself, you know, is there any pain in my heart? Is there any burden in my heart? Because if there's pain in my heart and burden in my heart, it means that there's a blockage in my heart. You know, the heart is probably holding something from the past and it's blocked. One of my relatives who lives in Australia, actually, he had a heart condition where 5 of his arteries, I'm not joking, 5 arteries had to have a bypass. I mean, I've heard of a single bypass, a double bypass, a triple bypass. But in this case, 5 of his arteries needed to have a bypass. And when he had this bypass, this huge bypass, I think it was 11 years ago, he was told that his heart was clean and clear and that now, you know, everything had been sorted out. But he made one fatal mistake. You know what he did? He didn't check his heart for 11 years. So for 11 years, he has assumed that his heart is okay. And he changed his diet. He goes to the gym, he exercises, and he hopes that his heart is okay. But then just 2 months ago, he was visiting another country and someone said, you know, 11 years and you've had a quintuple bypass 5 arteries and you've never got checked. So don't you think you should just have a few blood tests and scans done? And you know what they found out? Out of those 5 arteries, 3 of them are 80% blocked. Now that's just a story. But I wonder sometimes, you know, how much my own heart is still blocked and, you know, has feelings that are negative towards myself or other people. And, you know, whenever the heart is ill, the heart is unwell, what happens to my spiritual heart? Well, the heart just shrinks. It shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. And what it does is it creates feelings of negativity, doubt, suspicion, negative energy, basically, towards other people. And the more I have pain in my heart, the less and less I want to allow people close to me. And so one way of checking, you know, how your heart is going is actually to check how many people you have sitting in your heart. So I'd like you to do a little exercise now. As May mentioned, you have a piece of paper, you have a pen. So on that piece of paper, yeah, somewhere in the middle, I'd like you to draw a little heart. Not too little, because I want you to fit a few words inside, but not a very big heart either, just a little heart. This is your heart. This is your spiritual heart. Now I'd like you to write inside the heart, in tiny, tiny letters, small letters, all the people who are in your heart today. The people you love. The people you unconditionally accept. I'll just give you a minute to think about all the people you love, you unconditionally accept, maybe even unconditionally love. Can I say that? From now until the day you die, you will love them. How many are there? people who you have such pure, clean feelings towards. So these are all the people who you have in your heart. And I presume that you don't have any bad feelings towards them. And that these people stay in your heart a lot, maybe forever. So I'm not sure if you have 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 people in there. However, it doesn't matter. It's just a very honest exercise. Okay. Now, on the side of your heart, you know, on the edge, but on the outside, just along the edge, I want you to write the names of the people who you do love and they're good, but, you know, not so easy to unconditionally accept them. Take your time. Remember to write their names just on the edge of the heart, not all over your paper. So on the edge of the heart, just. Probably they make it into your heart sometimes, but most of the time they stay on the edge, on the outside. And perhaps these are some of the people who have hurt you in your life. And that hurt is still there. And one of the things with healing the heart, one of the things that actually is a big part of healing the heart, is around me realizing that each one of us has a heart. You have a spiritual heart. Someone else has a spiritual heart. And when I have pain in my heart, it actually affects everything that happens in my life. It affects my relationships. It even affects the way I feel about myself. It affects all the things that I do, the words I speak. And so today I'm going to ask you to do something, you know. I'm going to ask you to stretch your heart. And just see if it's possible, because the new year is coming, right? So we need to do something good in the new year. Ask you whether it's possible to forgive the people you've written on the side of your heart. You know, they're not the worst people in the world, are they? They might have some defects, but by and large, I'm sure they're good people. It's just that they're not like you. They have few different opinions. And right in this moment, whether it's possible to stretch your heart a little bit. So let's say that you can now draw a heart that is a little bit bigger than the first heart, and that it includes the people who you just, you know, put the names around the edge of your heart. Yeah, that's it. So you've drawn a slightly bigger heart now, And in the little heart, you've got all those that are unconditionally loved and accepted. And then you've stretched your heart a little bit, and you've actually been able to encompass and, bring in those who were on the edge of your heart and perhaps not unconditionally loved, but they're good. Now I'd like you to actually write on the edge of the slightly bigger heart, people who have really caused you some pain in your life, who you would never associate with love or acceptance. And if there's nobody like that in your life, maybe there's people out there, you read about them in the news, people who are violent, people who are manipulative, things that people do wrong, So on the outside of that heart, I want you to put the names of the people who really don't bring any feeling of love into your heart. So I'll give you a moment to do that. Almost like they're unconditionally rejected by you. There's the unconditionally accepted. And these are people who, you have to reject because they really aren't good at all. Think about, news in the world and what goes on, and this person against that person, this group against that group. People who are abusive towards humans, animals, people who don't look after the environment. Who is it who is really hard for you to find any goodness with? And put them along the edge of your bigger heart. Okay. So once you've done that, and if you feel like your picture, your drawing is looking a bit like your spiritual heart, yeah, that's what it's like. I'd like you to join me on a little meditation. And in this meditation, we're going to heal the heart. Because unless we can heal our hearts, we actually can't learn what the word love means. And unless I learn to love, I can't learn to live life to the fullest. So put down your pen and paper, and now join me for just a few moments of meditation. So you can look at something in front of you and focus your eyes, or close your eyes, or even look at the point of light behind me, whatever you'd like to do for your meditation. So just relax. Your body completely. Relax the muscles in your feet, all the way up your legs. Feel the weight of your body on the chair. Relax your hips and even your stomach muscles. Relax your back, shoulders, arms, hands, and even your fingers that work all day. And check your breathing and just feel how relaxed it is. Relaxed breathing means relaxed lungs. And now I'd like you to check your heart. Can you feel the beat of your heart? Can you feel within the beat of your heart if there are any blockages? If your heart is heavy, if your heart has pain, because there might be some thorns stuck in it. And ask yourself, is this how I want to finish the year? Do I want to take this kind of heart into 2023? And for the sake of this exercise, we'll assume that we want to go to 2023 with a heart full of love. Only love. So close your eyes and imagine that piece of paper that you just drew on. And see that lovely heart. The pure, clean heart. The people who you love unconditionally in that heart. The feelings of gratitude, good wishes, just love and appreciation. And acceptance towards those people. Because no matter what those people do, you've locked them in your heart. And they're always there for you. And now, I'd like you to stretch your heart, to stretch your love. And I'd like you to see if you can just expand your heart and include those who are on the edge of your little heart. Not because they're perfect, but because love is the only way. Just feel your heart expanding and including those who are on the edge of your heart. And it doesn't mean that they've changed. It doesn't mean that they've become any better. It just means that I make a choice. I make a choice to have a big heart, to extend my love, to forgive, to embrace. And this has nothing to do with them. I want to be bigger and better and rise above the past. So all those who are on the edge of my heart, I include them. And in doing this, however they have affected me in the past, I feel that effect, that blockage being removed. Because they blocked my love before. And in this moment, I choose to unblock and only love and only accept. And now I'd like you to have a little bit of courage. And expand your heart even more. Just allow your heart, like a balloon, to grow even bigger. And I'd like you to expand your heart out so much that it goes over the page. It becomes bigger than the page you drew on. So that anybody whose name was on the page is now in your heart. In fact, the whole world is in your heart. Not because the world is a perfect place, that people behave in the right way. I do this because I understand that every soul does the best they can at every moment in time. And even though they make mistakes, even though they say things and do things that have affected me in the past, I don't want my heart to stay burdened, blocked, in pain. I want to live my life with a strong heart, a clean heart, a pure heart. So for my sake, I allow my heart to grow, to expand. And if you still feel there's anyone outside of your heart, just put them in for a few minutes of the meditation and feel only love. Feel every beat of your heart, sending out energy of love into the entire universe. How good it feels to be able to just love unconditionally, to accept unconditionally. To have a heart of pure gold. So now just feel your breathing again. Deep breath in and let it out. And here we are. It's the same world, it's the same me. But my heart is healed. So I want you to look at that paper and make sure that you now draw a really big heart and make sure that everyone's name gets included in it. One big heart, as big as the page, as big as you can go. And everyone embraced by my heart. And the reason we do this is because our original nature is love. And, you know, we don't want that love to be an on and off process. We don't want someone else to take that remote control and change the channels of my heart, you know, of my feelings from good to bad, right to wrong, you know, pain to pleasure, you know, sadness to happiness. No. It's the people outside my heart who actually take that remote control and play with it. I give it away, actually. I give it to them. But if I can put everyone in my heart, then there is no remote control. And there's no way anyone can take me away from feelings of love. And on this spiritual journey, one thing I've learned is that the aim of any spiritual education, any meditative mindfulness practice, is to stabilize myself in those good wishes, those pure feelings, and to allow my heart to just send constant energy of love into the universe, no matter what. Okay, so all of your hearts are now healed, right? Now we have another task, and that is healing the soul. And healing the soul is even deeper than healing the heart. In healing the soul, we're actually going deeper than these feelings and emotions are generated. And we go deeper and deeper into I, the being, until where I find my programming. You know, if you look at this life, just this life, you might be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old. And, you know, all the time that you've been on this earth, since your journey began, whenever you believe it began, all that's happened is you've been programmed and programmed and programmed. It's as though there's been a layer of programming, one on top of the other, as you move through life. And I don't know about you, but my computer, my phone, occasionally, you know, they just get stuck. They hang, as they say. And then I have to reboot them and start them. And I think sometimes for all of us, you know, this programming has happened, and there's so much of it. And we don't have time to reboot. We don't have time to even know what the programming is. Do you know how you can check what your programming is and how much there is? Well, can you draw on your piece of paper an iceberg? Everyone knows what an iceberg is. So you have water, and the iceberg has a little tip above the water, and the majority of the iceberg is below the water. And so this iceberg actually represents your inner self. And you know, the scientific understanding of the iceberg tells us that 10% of the iceberg stays above the water. 90% of the iceberg is below. So you can do this at home, you know, if you take a cube of ice from the fridge, from the freezer, and you put it into a bit of water, you know, a glass of water. Now that ice will float a little bit above, majority below. And this is a little bit what our soul is like. We see only a little bit of what's going on, what is visible to us in our day-to-day activities. And what we see usually, the 10% that we see, is our habits. If I can use another word, even more obvious, our reactions. Every time you react with life, so there's life, you know, things are happening, situations are happening, even simple things like you're running late for a meeting and there's a red light. How do you react? Oh no, I should have gone through, you know? Or do you go, it's okay. It's good there's a red light because it slows me down. The meeting can wait, you know? So the way we react to life, every reaction is part of the 10% of the iceberg that you see. So I would like you now on your piece of paper to write on the 10%, the tip above, some of the main reactions that you see in yourself that you might like to change. Because we want to finish all of that in the 3 weeks before the 1st of January. That's why I said I love, you know, December workshops. They're the best. Because there's such an opportunity to be able to let go, reset, and completely create a new me. So I'll give you a moment just to write on the tip of the iceberg all the things that you'd like to let go of. Maybe it's only one thing, and that's fine. But think of any reaction you have that shows you, you know, that you could be a little bit more peaceful, a little bit more happy, maybe happier, joyful, a little bit more loving, caring, understanding. So I give you a minute just to write those reactions that you see in yourself. Remember, this is very private, and I'm not going to ask you to share your drawing, either the heart or the iceberg, with anyone. So you can write whatever you like. So now, behind every reaction I have in this world, you know, the most common way of understanding my reaction is saying things like, well, it's because of the situation that I behaved in this way. It's because of the deadline at work, that I am rushing, or I'm in such a bad mood. Or it's because of that person that I needed to be a bit, rude or angry. If they hadn't said this, I wouldn't have reacted. If this hadn't have happened, I would have been okay. And somehow the path of seeing life outside in means that I see the reason for the way I am to be out there. When it comes to issues around my wealth, somebody loses their wealth and they say, well, actually, it was because of the financial crisis, Somebody loses relationships and they say, well, I tried my best, but that person, it was that person. Some people have bad health and they say, well, what can I do? I inherited the genes. It's really interesting. I went to see my cardiologist last week. And I sort of said, I've reached a particular age, and don't you think I should get a few heart checks done? And he started to tell me stories of what he's been seeing over the last 3 years, because I haven't seen him since pre-COVID. And he told me that he sees very often people who don't eat well and don't exercise much, and they do have issues within the heart. But he says, the people who die and the people who have massive heart attacks, they don't die because of that. They die only because of one reason, and that is stress in their lives. He says, you can have a heart that has all the arteries, free flowing, but you have stress in your life, the reaction that stress causes to your endocrine system, which means your hormone system, and what it does inside your body creates almost like a huge violent response, which results in heart attacks. And I ask myself sometimes, even with my own reactions to the world, it's so easy to say, my stress came because of. And yet, the path of spirituality says something totally different. The path of spirituality says all of your reactions come because of your programming. And essentially, within your programming, there are two interesting buttons that make everything function. And that is the button of right, wrong, true, false. And it's these two buttons that create most of my reactions. When I see in the world that something's happening that is wrong, my wrong programming starts to work. When I see something that's right, that I approve of, when I say right, I mean right according to my understanding of right, my approval. So then all my programming of right starts to come awake. And so healing the soul actually is coming to a place of neutral. It's being able to see everyone in the world from the position of peace. So I position myself in a place of peace. And no matter what happens out there, my reaction is going to be peace. So between me and my reaction are all these layers of programming that tell me what is right, what is wrong, what should be, what shouldn't be, what could be, what couldn't have been, what must be. And they are all the programming that I have. And of course, all of this then becomes what we call my own persona or my personality. And so no personality is good or bad, but the beautiful thing is that we have the choice to change my personality. So if I were to say to you in 2023, how would you like the tip of your iceberg to look? What reactions would you like to have to anything that happens out there? What energy would you like to send into the world? You know, choose a nice word, a word that to you embodies a spiritual person. You know, so for me, for example, serene, serenity. You know, it's a very beautiful word. It's nicer than the word peaceful, because somehow serene brings an angelic feeling, you know, with it. And it doesn't mean that it's just flat, but there's this beautiful movement in it, that's serene. Now, for someone, it might be kindness. For someone, it might be loving. For somebody, it might be stillness. You know? What energy, if you could pick one word, what energy would you like to show to the world? Which means, would you like to come into the tip of the iceberg, that part of your mind that shows you your reactions? Have a little think. I'm sure there's 3 or 4 or 5 words that come to mind. I'd like to be this in 2023. But if you could just narrow it down to one word, what word would it be? Who do you want to be? Yeah. Now, go back to your iceberg. And I'd like you to put that word, big letters, bold letters, on the tip of your iceberg. Get rid of all the other stuff. You can either rub it off, it's pencil, or just strike it all off. It's no longer me. And right in the middle of the tip of the iceberg, I'd like you to write that one word, that one quality. And if you can't decide between 2, it's okay. You can put 2 words in there, but hopefully one. Now, at the bottom of your iceberg, you know, the last layer of your iceberg, not the big bit in the middle, right at the bottom end of your iceberg, I want you to write love, peace, happiness, because these are the 3 primary conditions of the soul. That's what we're made of. Between them and what you want to vibrate in 2023 lies the majority of the iceberg, you know. And I want you to think just for a few moments about what are the thoughts that you have when you see difficult situations or difficult people. I call them DPs. I'm sure you all have a few DPs in your life, difficult people. So you've got all these difficult people, yeah, or difficult situations. And when something from life is in front of you that is difficult, what are all the thoughts of right and wrong that come into your mind? So, for example, you see somebody not listening to what you're telling them to do. Okay, so the other day I was with someone. We went for a drive and we went to a place that we really didn't know. It was quite far out of Abu Dhabi. And on the way back, for some reason, none of us put our GPS on. So we turned and we took one wrong turn, and I knew it was a wrong turn. So I quickly looked at my Google map and I said, oh no, we have to take a U-turn. So this person said to me, no, and passed me the other person's phone and said, here, use my GPS. I mean, GPS is GPS, isn't it? Whether it's on my phone or your phone, it's got to be the same. And I could see we needed to take a U-turn. Anyway, so we're going forward, and it took me a while because it's a different type of phone. And by the time we got to the next part of the road, the GPS showed you could do a U-turn or you could take a left turn, and it would be approximately the same amount of time. But if you took the left turn, it was a very long road to get back home. And yes, the road was a big road. It was a highway, so of course you could go faster. So here's me going U-turn, 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 you know, because I thought it's better to take a U-turn. And then what did this person do? Take a left turn. So I was sitting in the passenger seat thinking, right, how are you going to react to this? And I thought to myself, you know what? Even if we get home 5 minutes later, even 15 minutes later, it's okay. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is that I stay peaceful. Because by then I wasn't feeling 100% peaceful. I was feeling like, I'm telling you to take a U-turn, it would be better. So in my mind, already the conditioning of my GPS, I saw, was right. And what you're saying might be another route which is right, but it's going to take longer. It's not the way we came. You know, so many things suddenly started to mushroom in my mind, all based on the two buttons, right or wrong. Can you see how, when you look at the world, if things fall under the right button, all your programming, the good programming, starts to work. And the minute something doesn't fit with what you believe is right and it goes into the wrong area, all your wrong programming starts to come up. It's interesting, isn't it? So really, all that stops me from being that one beautiful word that you wrote at the tip of your iceberg is this huge amount of programming around right and wrong. And so I, the soul, I, the spirit, I, the inner self, I, the being, the living, thinking being, am trying to fit everything that I know into right and wrong. And this is why the soul is corrupted. The ability to see things from a perspective of neutral. The ability to just view life as being, it is what it is. I just need to stick to that top part of the iceberg because that's who I am. And I can do it from my deep subconscious programming of love, peace, and happiness. I can jump over all this in-between programming and get to the tip of the iceberg. But for that, I can't get trapped into the old right and wrong. So for 2023, to heal the soul, you just need to do one thing with me. You need to just pick up a pair of glasses, sunglasses or reading glasses, and make sure that on the lens of your glasses, you write the word, stay neutral. There's many words that we say in our spiritual study, in the spiritual education. Sometimes we call this neutrality, sometimes we call this detachment. Sometimes we call it creating space, creating a buffer zone between me and life. And in this buffer zone, between me and my reaction, I wipe away all that programming of right and wrong and should and shouldn't, good and bad. And I keep space. I, the being of love, peace, and happiness, and life, at an arm's distance. And sometimes really I realize for myself that if I can do that, I can always be that one quality, that one virtue that I want to be. All I need is between me and the tip of the iceberg. So the me at the bottom of the iceberg, the soul, the love, peace, and happiness, and the reaction I want to exhibit to the world, to react, to respond to life with. All I need in between is this clean zone, this buffer zone, this neutral zone. A zone that doesn't have my old programming in it. So healing the soul is really all about coming back to a place of being neutral. And in that neutrality, allowing me to be the best that I can be. So I think it might be time to ask you if you have any questions before we end. I do have a little meditation to do so that we can wipe away all the old programming, but maybe it's time for Q&A. So would anyone like to ask a question or make a comment?
It can be in the chat box or put up your hand and we can unmute you. Someone raised.
May, I can't believe that no one has a question out there.
Yes, there's someone raised their hand. We're going to
good.
get one.
Good, good.
Yes, Haya.
Hi, I'm one of the oldest students of Sona from Abu Dhabi, and I just want to thank you, Sona, for the great session. And I just have a question. Like when you put the whole world in your heart, like as you were saying before, like I've noticed that people start to take advantage of you nowadays. Like when you have just love and good wishes for and acceptance of everyone, like everyone. I'm not talking about like the people in your life and like the family and the direct people, but like putting everyone in your heart. I feel like always people take advantage. So like, what do you think about that?
When we say people take advantage of me, so often we feel that maybe someone doesn't respect me, you know, maybe someone doesn't understand me, and so they are taking advantage of me. I hope that's what I've understood, that I've understood correctly, Haya. You know, nobody can disrespect me if I respect myself. This has been my learning. And when I say that I love you, it doesn't mean that I don't create boundaries in my life. So, I mean, I love all of you on the call, and Haya is particularly close to me because she's in the city of Abu Dhabi. But, you know, I have a timetable in my life. And if Haya, you were to say to me, Sona, I want to come and meet you and the time doesn't suit me, because I love you, it doesn't mean that I don't respect my timetable. So I need to respect my life. I need to respect my diet. I need to respect my sleeping time. I need to respect, you know, so I need to respect my entire life and always create that structure for myself. Then, with good wishes, with pure feelings, with a big heart, give to people, but without stopping to give to myself. So often when I have the feeling that somebody is disrespecting me or somebody is taking advantage of me, it's actually me allowing them to take a disadvantage of me. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like I drop my boundary and I allow you in beyond the point where any human being should come. So maybe it might be a little workshop for yourself or an exercise for yourself to ask yourself, you know, if you leave your door open at night and somebody walks in, is it their fault or is it yours? Yes, you could say they shouldn't walk in because it's not their home. But I would also say it's possibly me not knowing to shut that door, to lock it for my protection. Okay, forget about a person. Let's say it's a mouse or a rat or it's a cat. You know, if you leave the door open and a few mice come in and they mess up your kitchen, you know, then you can't say, well, they should know better. They shouldn't, right?
Yeah.
Then you would definitely say, I should have locked the door. It's the same with ourselves. You could say the mice took advantage of the fact that the door is open, but why was the door open? So what I find personally is that really having love, good wishes, and, you know, having a big heart doesn't mean that I let go of my boundaries and my self-respect. I don't know if I've answered you
Thank
correctly.
you. That was a really good answer. Thank you so much. I'll think about it.
Thanks, Haya. So we've got two more in line. Lalita?
Yes, thank you very much for whatever you've been telling us. This word, unconditional love. Now, to have a big heart means to love everyone. But if I know that I have been cheated very badly by someone, and it's about money or something very solid, it's not just emotions, and they've been dishonest with me, if I want to avoid them, if I want to not deal with them, would that be called that I do not accept them or love them? Because a lot of people tell me that you are putting conditions. It means, or the other way around, if someone is very wary of some other person, they complain that people don't love me. So how should we go with that?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, you know. I'm going to say something, but you know, it may not be for your situation, Lalita. Usually in financial matters, whenever we are cheated, there is a little bit of an element of me being careless.
Yes.
And everyone, including myself, who has lost money, there was some level of my own carelessness in the situation. It didn't mean that I had to be cheated, but the person, a little bit like Haya's question, took advantage. And in a world where people are empty, they take advantage of our emotions, of our money, of our time, of everything that we have, unless we learn to protect ourselves. Which is why, if I've been cheated, usually I would answer exactly the same as I did with Haya. I let the guard down. I mean, in today's world, even among spiritual people, if there's a deal, I say put it in writing on a legal paper. And I say that not because I mistrust human beings, but because inside each one of us, there is a slight amount of imperfection that can come alive anytime. You know, Lalita, a friend of mine, you probably know her. Her name is Maureen. She lives in Australia, Maureen Chen, and I think she won't mind me repeating a story that has stuck with me for years. One of her best friends cheated her. And so she went to her mentor and said, you know, what do you do when you feel so bad and someone's cheated you? Has nobody ever cheated you? How do you feel? How do you trust anyone after that's happened? You know? And this person replied, I trust everyone on this earth, but I trust them 95%. And I understand that everyone on this earth has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% within them that could allow them to do something wrong. So I need to protect myself. And I need to, before they make the mistake or do something wrong, prepare myself that I love everyone, despite their imperfections, despite their cheating, despite their anger.
But I will be careful with them next time.
I will be careful, full stop, next time.
I'll be careful.
Not just about them, because everyone you know, even those you put inside your heart, your little heart, even they're not perfect.
Actually, this question was not, it was about money, but it was a very indirect, a friend of mine had shared, and I didn't have an answer. You know how families are, especially Asian families, they do a lot for each other. So both these brothers, sorry for everybody taking time, but this is so important, I think, for all. Both the brothers are close to each other and they have one house, but one of the brothers lives in Japan and one is there. So the other brother's daughter was getting married, and you know how in India they spent a lot of money on weddings. So there was not enough money, so they mortgaged the house. And this younger brother, he said it's fine, and he kept paying off the mortgage. So that was fine. He felt very good that he had helped his brother and all that. Then the younger brother, his daughter is going for education to a foreign country. And somehow he feels he doesn't have funds. So he's telling his brother, can we put the house on mortgage? And he says, no.
Yeah.
And he is just shattered. He says for his daughter's wedding, I just didn't think, and I kept paying off the mortgage. So we told him it's maybe because he's still living there and you are living here. So you are not, even if the house goes, you are here, but he loses his house. But even in spite of that, he's just flat no. And I did tell him that he invested too much in the beginning, but you know, these are hard things, right? So you can't say that you invested too much.
Definitely. I mean, feelings get involved, emotions get involved, especially in families. Yes. This is why even today, if anyone comes to me with any financial issues, it could be two brothers, two sisters, husband and wife. I tell them, put everything clearly on a piece of paper. Don't leave it to, oh, I'm sure they'll do the right thing. Because the reality is life is changing. Our responsibilities are constantly changing. The stock markets are changing. You know, currencies are going up and down, and everyone is finding themselves in positions that they probably wouldn't want to be. So I really feel that it's up to the individual now to take that responsibility. It might feel really cut and dry, but I really feel the more we can put things on a piece of paper, it's not like the olden days where life was so stable and we went by word of mouth. Someone said something, we trusted it. It was, you know, that was it till the end of life. Now, even if something's in writing, two lawyers will interpret it differently. So I think, again, you know, it's all about healing the heart, getting rid of all this right and wrong, and resetting, starting again. And say, what can I learn? And how can 2023 be different for me, be better for me?
Thanks, Lalita. Now we have two questions in the chat box. Not that we have a lot of time, but should I read both and see if you can cover them?
Please, yes,
Okay,
let's do that.
Both, yeah.
Sure.
So one says, what happens if the situation like the one you encountered in the car keeps repeating itself? My personal word is calm for 2023. However, I find that certain people keep repeating the same things that trigger me. I try to stay calm once, twice, and breathe through it, but then there is a limit before I react. How do I continue to stay peaceful in that peaceful zone? And the second, I would like to ask, if I feel sad or fearful, how do I stay neutral? At times, it's hard to control. Maybe for anger, we can still be calm and try to be neutral. Also, the panic attacks can be hard to control.
Yeah. So for the first question, my answer would be that person who I was in the car with is not going to change quickly. So that's okay. What I've decided is it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to live up to my calm. And next time it happens, and it probably has happened actually, because this was something that happened about 4 days ago. And in between, other things have happened. And I decided it's okay. Because this is that programming, but my programming is calm. So how can I be anything but calm? And the funny thing is, if I stay calm and go, okay, that person is more open to listening to what I have to say. Anyone who's dealt with teenage children will understand exactly what I'm saying. Except this person's not a teenage child, but it's all right. I think there's a teenager in all of us that sometimes wants to just do what I want to do. With the second question about fear, panic, anxiety, worry, I really feel that these are on the rise in the world generally. And I think, again, it's a programming. And as we know, behind fear is a sense of loss, a sense of emptiness. And it's very similar for worry, anxiety. I don't want to be left with nothing. And so, you know, spirituality and meditation helps a lot in me feeling secure and safe and realizing that actually I can control nothing that's happening around me. Nothing. I can't control the weather. I can't control financial markets. I can't control other people. I can't control when I'll be sacked from my job. I can't control anything. The only thing I can control is what's happening inside me, my inner world, my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions. Even that, I can only be in control of that if I start to reprogram. So meditation is a process of reprogramming the self. And it's a process of repeatedly using a new program of I am safe, I am secure, and there is no need for any sense of feeling of loss, you know, because that's where fear comes from. And so I really feel that if you meditate regularly, focusing on that, you will get a lot of relief. If need be, maybe it's good to even see a counselor. Sometimes they can really help to change old thought patterns. So you do some meditation and you get a good counselor to help you, you know, to work through things. If you're in Abu Dhabi, I can refer you to some good counselors. Because I find that some people, for years, they've been telling me they've got the same pattern. And meditation is there. But, you know, sometimes it just gets stuck. We just get stuck in some areas. And when we allow somebody else and we share with them, you know, we allow them to come in with their thoughts. You go, oh my God, I wish I'd thought of that earlier. And that's what counselors do. They help you to find a solution or a thought pattern or a program, as I call it, that is sitting there. You're looking at it, but you can't see it. And then that just shifts the energy like that. So it's worth getting, you know, some external help if meditation is not helping you to shift over many, many years. So yeah, I'm sure there could possibly be more questions made, but it would be nice to do a little meditation, wouldn't it? To heal the soul and finish off the session, don't you think?
Yes, I think actually all the questions have been answered.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really, really good. I do see a comment by someone that it is difficult to get a family member to sign a piece of paper, and I do agree with you. So I think if I am not greedy, and it's not that I want something from the family, but if I put things forward in a way where I'm just saying for the sake of our own peace, you know, and understanding, it would be really nice to get things in place. Even if within that, you know, I don't get anything from it, but it's just about knowing, you know, sometimes just gentle energy and conversations can help. I recently lost my father-in-law, and I remember a few days before he passed away saying to my husband, you know, just make sure you put all the paperwork in order before he goes, because once a person is gone, it's much harder to make changes with banks and this and that. And it's, you know, my husband and I have had these difficult conversations. I say difficult, although they're not difficult. You know, he's like an angel. But I've had to say, look, you know, in all our financial joint accounts, you know, is it clear, legally clear, who gets what? And, you know, so if I go or you go, we know what's happening. And so we've had that chat. We've sat down and done all of that. It feels a bit uncomfortable, but it's for the benefit of everyone. Think about your family, think about your children, you know. Yeah, even with property and stuff like that, it's good just for the clarity of everyone. You just have to be very gentle in your approach, I think. And if it doesn't work once, don't worry, go back a few months later. And hopefully your energy, you know, your good energy, your selfless energy, your peaceful energy helps people to realize that you're not chasing after anything. Yeah, you just want peace. So maybe drop your phones, drop your pens, paper, and just sit comfortably. And allow yourself to be in the here and now. Be very present. And just referring back to the drawing of the iceberg, I'd like you to ask yourself, between you, the inner self, the inner being, and the outside world, how many layers of programming do you have of what you believe is right, of what you believe is wrong? Of your expectations of other people. Because right and wrong create expectations and pressure. Right and wrong puts pressure on myself. Right and wrong makes me put pressure on others to conform. So gently ask yourself, how many layers of right and wrong, true and false, should and shouldn't, do I have between I, the being, and the world around me? And just for one moment, imagine all the programming is erased. And you go back to your default setting. I, a being of light, an inner self. I'm a guest in this world. I'm playing a game in life. And everything is just the way it should be. And I see the world with glasses, with lenses that are just neutral. Everything is as it is. It's all good. Everything happens for a reason. Let me find that reason. Let me find that learning. Let me come back to being at peace with myself and with all that is. This is healing of the soul. Letting go. of old beliefs, old programming, and becoming clean, neutral. Let's take a deep breath in and let it out. And here we are, 3 weeks to go. So we enter 2023 with a golden heart, a heart full of love, and a new vision towards the world. A vision which is one that engages, but doesn't allow me to get entangled. So I stay neutral. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sona Ben. I personally feel really expanded. Yeah, and both exercises really, I feel like it's given me a personal guidepost for next year. Yeah, refocusing on what is really important and good for me, actually. So thank you so much. That was really lovely, and I hope the same for everyone, that you took away what you needed from today. So,
Thank you so much for having me on.
thank you.
Very happy New Year to all of you.
Yes. So just before we end, just a little bit about what's coming up next year, first quarter of the year. In fact, it's funny that you mentioned Maureen Chen, because next year she'll be doing a 3-part program on ancient wisdom for modern times. And so she will be guiding us through the ancient yet creative practice of Raja Yoga meditation to calm a busy mind, to experience our inner beauty, and also how to connect with the source of peace and power. So we will keep you posted with more details. We've got your emails, and those who provided your WhatsApp number, we will send it to you when we have details. And in the meantime, if you'd like to start exploring or learning meditation, please do check out this great website. It's learnmeditationonline.org. learnmeditationonline.org. So lastly, to end the program, I'd like to invite everyone to turn on your videos, put on your gallery mode so you can see everyone, to say goodbye. And I will do that myself. Actually, I'm going to put on the gallery mode. And yes, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And thanks, Sona, for closing our year with some insights and some heart-opening exercises. And I wish everyone a wonderful and safe Christmas and New Year's season, and all the very best to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sona Ben. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, and all the best to everyone for 2023.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.